Alright, so in this video, I'm going to go over do now number 5. Number 1 is the function even, odd, or neither, and how do you know? First off, we notice that both exponents on function A, this one and this one, are odd. So when every exponent in the polynomial is odd and the function is odd, then the function is odd. But you also have to be able to show it algebraically. So replace all the x's with negative x. So we're going to do f of negative x equals negative 5 times negative x to the third plus 3 times negative x. And then we simplify, and so that's going to give us a negative cubed is negative, but then you have that negative 5 right there. So I've got negative x cubed here, and then another negative that's going to give me positive. So 5x cubed. And on the 3 times negative x, that's negative 3x. So notice how this function right here is the opposite of this one. This is now positive and this sign is now negative. So because of that, because f of negative x gave me the opposite of the function, then this one would be odd. Okay? Letter B. When you have a rational function, you treat the numerator as a separate one, and then the denominator, and then compare the two results. So right here, when you replace when you look at the numerator, replace the x with a negative x, and then simplify. That gives you x squared plus 9. So the numerator is even, because you get the original back. And then the denominator, replace the x with a negative x, and you get negative 4x. The denominator is odd. Okay? So when you have even in the numerator and odd in the denominator, the result of that is odd, because the numerator is positive and the denominator you got the opposite. So overall, together would be odd. Alright, for number 2, we're stating the domain. In g of x in part A, we have x in the numerator, but again, because it's just 2x minus 1, it could be all real numbers. It doesn't affect the domain, but we look at the denominator. Okay, we know that the denominator cannot be 0. And on top of that, we have x inside a square root, so we know that the expression, this inside the square root, cannot be negative. Okay, so we set 4 minus 3x has to be greater than 0. Not equal to, because it's in the denominator. So it has to be strictly greater than. We subtract 4 from both sides, so that gives you negative 3x greater than negative 4. We divide by negative 3, so that makes it x is less than, because remember, when you divide by a negative or multiply by a negative in an inequality, the direction of the inequality changes. So now it's x is less than positive 4/3. So this would be the answer as an inequality. In interval notation, I'll just write it up here on top. It would be negative infinity to 4/3 with parentheses on both ends. For letter B, again, the numerator has an x, but it could be all reals. Denominator, we just have to make sure it's not 0. But because we have x squared plus 9, no matter what you replace the x with, any real number you replace it with, you're never going to have a 0 here. Because a number squared can never be negative 9. And, you need a negative 9 to get a 0 here. So no matter what you put in here, it's never going to be negative 9. So the domain for this one is all reals. Alright, number 3, it's asking for general form of the equation. So remember, general form is ax plus by equals c, like that. From here, we need the slope from this equation. Okay, so the slope here subtract 6x, so you get negative 5y equals negative 6x plus 7, divide by negative 5. So then y is 6 over 5x minus 7/5. So the slope here is 6 over 5. Okay? When they want the perpendicular, you have to take the opposite and reciprocal of that 6 over 5. So the perpendicular slope is going to be negative 5 over 6. The new line has to pass through this point. So I'll start off by writing it in point slope form, which is y minus y sub 1 equals the slope times x minus x sub 1. Okay, I'm going to simplify, so y plus 1, distribute right here, negative 5/6 x plus 10, 5/6 times 12 is 10, and I'm going to subtract 1. So I get, I'll just write it up here, y equals negative 5/6 x plus 9. So I need to get it in general form, right? So I'm going to move it over to the x to the left, so I get 5/6 x plus y equals 9. And we want to get rid of the fraction, so we're going to multiply everything by 6. So distribute here, so 5x plus 6y equals 54. Okay, so for number 4 is a graph a function. How do you know? If you pass a vertical line anywhere, anywhere on over the graph, it's only going to touch the graph at most in one point. So if you just draw a vertical all the way across, it's only going to intersect the graph in at most one place, one point. So the answer is yes, because it passes the vertical line test. Okay? Domain. Excuse me. We go from left to right for the domain, and notice how we come up with, that's the first point we encounter in the graph, and then it goes, and then there is an open dot right here, and then after that it continues, you go, and there's an open dot right there. So this is open and this is open. So my domain would be from negative, I know it's not labeled, I forgot to label it, but let's say that this is positive negative 2 right here. It's about the same. So we would say the domain is from negative 2 to positive 6, because that's where the first open dot is. Bracket on the negative 2 because it equals. This one's closed right here. Union 6 to 14, parentheses on both. Okay, because those are both open dots, the 6, 8, and 14, 8. The range, you go from the bottom to the top. So going from the bottom to the top, this is the first point right here that we encounter, negative 8, and then it just continues on up to positive 8. But notice how both points are open. So we're going to say negative 8, positive 8, parentheses on the 8 because the dots are open, bracket on the negative 8 because the dots are closed.